Okay, so we have looked at how to create functions, right? Different type of functions. We've looked at how to create different types of functions. It also happens that now when you create these functions, the question is, where do you store them? Because if you create a function which is useful, you will need easy access to that particular function. Is that clear? So that you can use it, because you don't want to be creating things over and over. Every time you want to create something, you want to use a particular function, you go and start creating it from scratch. It can be a very tedious process, and most likely you're not going to get very far with anything. Okay, so one of the problems you want to solve when you create functions is storage and very easy access to these particular functions. Okay, now Python offers this ability for you to store functions, and once you've stored them nicely, you're happy with how you've stored them, then how to access them. And this is done through something called modules. A module is a file, a text file, which contains functions or which contains methods. Are we clear? A module or a package, if you want to call it a module, a package, basically this is a text file which contains useful functions and some other code. For example, variables. So maybe there's some numbers you need in your line of work. Okay, so you get these functions, you get these numbers, you put them in a file, then you store that file with a very nice name which shows you what kind of which gives you a good idea of what kind of tasks these functions which are in this file actually do. And you save that file in Python. You save that file with an extension .py. This .py is like when you got a Word document, it ends with .docx, docs or doc, like that. Okay, so basically this is what a module is. It is a file, a text file, in which you have stored your functions and other code which you need. Are we clear?
Yes.
Now, for us to do anything useful with computers, we need to constantly create these functions. For a computer to be really useful, you need to constantly create new ways of using a computer by creating functions. And once you create these functions, you store them, then you use them, or you share what you have created with other people. Because the good thing with the module is, once you create it and you're happy with your functions, you can share it with me, or I can share it with you, or you can share it with Rachel, so that she doesn't have to do the work again because you have already done the work. Okay, so we are trying to also avoid this whole thing of doing something which somebody has already done. We don't want to do that. Once someone has done something, we just want to use what they have made, as long as we are sure this stuff actually works and produces the results which are expected. And that's what programmers do. Part of what programmers do is they create functions, then they package these functions and methods in modules. Okay, different programming languages have got different ways of doing all this thing, this module thing or this package thing. Are we clear?
Yes.
Once you have created, you have your text file, you have created your functions, you put them there, here and there. There will be need for you to tell Python to say, Python, I want to use the functions in a particular file. Okay, I want to use functions in a particular file. And this process of you telling Python, say you want access to functions which are in a particular file, This is what's known as importing. Because naturally, when you're just normally using Python, Python will not have access to functions which you have stored in your module. You need to tell Python, say, I now want access to functions which are in this file. Are we clear?
Yes.
This process is what is referred to as importing a module. Now, when you import a module, basically you're telling Python you want access to a file and you want access to things which are in that particular file. Okay? There are different ways of doing this whole business of importing. You can tell Python you want to import the whole module. And how do you do the import? There is this word. You use this word. You say import. You type import. Then with this import, there are different ways you can do it. For example, you can tell Python you want to import everything. You want access to everything which is in a file. So you say import then module, which is the name of the module. Now remember, the full name of the module is some name with this .py. Okay? But when you import, when you do an import, you just say import then the name of the module without including the .py. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes. When the moment you say import, Python is going to look for a file which has got the extension .py. So the only thing it has to do is it's going to look for a file which matches the name of the module, the name of something of what you have said after the import. So import then the name of a file. Then Python will look for that file on the computer. Okay? Are we clear?
Yes.
Sometime.
So,
Yes.
for example, like last time we had created a file which was supercars. So if we said import supercars, everything would be taken in.
No, supercars wasn't the file. Supercars was the list.
Okay.
That wasn't the file.
It was a list. So
Yes.
so can the import can it copy even a list found in a module?
This import business only works with a file which contains functions, modules, or yes, data. For example, that data could be a list.
All right.
Yes. And that data, yeah, that data could be a list with a very nice name, like supercars. Then if you want to import supercars, then you could do that. Yes, so basically, in a nutshell, yes, it could. As long as this thing is in a file. Okay. So that's how you import everything which is in a module. We'll come back to this later. The other way you could do it, maybe you don't want to have access to everything. You just want to have access to a certain function. So in that case, if you just want to have access to a certain function, you are going to say import. Oh, sorry. No, not that. Okay. So once you have imported the module, now you want to have access to a particular function in that module. So you're going to say the name of the module, then you put a dot, then the function. Like what you have been doing, like this is similar to what you've been doing with methods. Okay? But a module is not, a module is a file. So you're doing this with a file. So you're saying the name of the file, then a particular function in that file. Or you can access a variable, say the name of the module, then you want a particular variable in that file. So this is how you access. Once you import the module, once you tell Python you want access to things which are in this particular module, this module can have functions, this module can have variables. Okay, are we clear?
Yes.
This module can have functions, this module can have variables. Usually it's functions and variables. Then when you want to access something in a function, this is how you're going to do it. The name of the module, you put a dot, then the name of the function with parentheses, or the name of the module, then a variable like that. One of the most useful modules in scientific computing is something called the math module. This is a module very useful because it has got all sorts of mathematics functions and mathematics constants which you will need to make progress with this course. So the name of the module is math, and this module comes with Python. Okay, but if you want to use this module, you need to tell Python to say, Python, I want to have access to the functions which are in the math module. So you need to tell Python so that Python is aware about what you want to do. And how do we do that? By doing an import. So you import this module so that Python becomes aware that now you want to use this particular module. So how do you do the import? You start with import, which is, so import, you're telling Python this is what you want to do. You want access to a file called math.py, and you want to use the things in that file. So you say import math. So you run that. Fine. Once you import math, now the next thing is you want to see what kind of files, what kind of functions and things you have got access to with this math. So you say print dir, then math. This is similar to what we did with methods yesterday and the other day. Can you still remember this? This sequence of command of functions?
Yes.
So when you do this, when you run this, this is what you get. What do we get? What are we interested in? You get this. This is acos or arc cosine, arc cos, arc cosh. These are mathematics functions. Arc sine, hyperbolic sine, arc tangent. This is another definition of arc tangent. This is hyperbolic tangent. Then this is ceiling, seal, combo, copy sine. This is a cosine function, cosh, degrees. This is for distance. This is e, the number e. This is an error function. This is exponent, fabs, factorial, flow, all these functions, f-sum, gamma, hypotenuse, infinity is not a number, is I think quadratic or something, log function, natural log, log 10, log 2, not a number, pi, power, product, radians, remainder, sine, hyperbolic sine, square root, tan, hyperbolic tan, tau, truncate. So with the math function, you get access to all these functions. Very, very useful if you want to do mathematics, some bit of mathematics. Maybe you want to do trigonometric things. So you have access to cosine, sine, tangent, or you want to do hyperbolic things. So, or you want to do logarithms. So instead of you painstakingly going through how you're going to do this logarithm things, you can just come here and use this. This is for natural log. This is just log 10. Then this is log 2. And you have access basically to all these functions. Are we clear?
Yes.
This is what you get when you import the math module. You get access to these functions. Again, like what we did yesterday, you can ask for help on a specific function. For example, there is this one here, radians. Then you're wondering, how do I use this radians? So you can ask for specific help on how to use radians. How do you do that? You use the help function. Then inside the help function, you do this, math.radians. Now when you do that math.radians, then you run that, then you get an explanation on math.radians. So basically you're told math.radians is found in the module math. First of all, you're told where this function is found, math module. Then next you're told how to use it. So you start with radians, then you put a value here, x. Then here's the explanation. Convert angle x from degrees to radians. So basically this radian function, that x you've been given there, that is an angle in degrees. And when you put that angle in degrees there, radians is going to convert that angle from degrees to radians. And why do you need to convert degrees to radians? It's very, very simple, because computers don't use degrees. Is that clear? Computers don't do calculations, trigonometric calculations in degrees. No, they never do that. They do trigonometric calculations in radians. So if you've got an angle which is in degrees, then you want to find out the sine or the cosine of this angle. The first thing you need to do is you need to change that angle in radians. Then after you change that angle in radians, then you're going to give it to a function like sine or cosine or tan. So you can do a trigonometric stuff, whichever trigonometric thing you want to do. Is that clear? This is how you get help when you import a module, any module. It's not just a math module, no. This thing I'm trying, because there are so many modules, and if I teach you all the modules, then we'll never finish, we'll never make progress with the course. Okay, so what I'm showing here applies to any other module. How do you import a module? You start with import, then you put the name of the module. How do you see what is inside this module? What kind of functions, what kind of constants do you have access to? Are we clear?
Yes.
You do that. Help radians like that. Then this other one, if you want help on this thing, factorial is where? Is this one. What does it do? So you say help factorial. So basically factorial, it works out this, find x factorial. That's what it does. So it works out the factorial of a number. Okay, then math sine. Math sine, again, the sine function in math module retains, what does it do? Retains the sine of x measured in radians. So you can see why that radian function is very important, because these trigonometric functions, they work in radians. So if you give something which is in degrees, Python sine is going to think it's in radians, so it's going to give you something else, and your calculations will turn out to be not good. Help on this other function, this one looks very funny, but what is it? Okay, so if you do that, if you run that here, x sqrt, so what is it? Square root. Return the square root of x. So if you want the square root of a number, that's how you're going to do it. If you want everything in the math module, then you can just say help math. Then Python is going to print out everything there is on math, this module. So it's going to start from the beginning, help on math module. Then it's going to, the name of the module, then some reference. If you want more information about math, double click here. If you do that, right click, you open a tab, some other tab is going to open, take you on the internet. But the information which is going to print there is the same as what is being shown here. So it's the description of what module is, what functions are there. So it starts with functions. So these are the functions which are there. You have a list of functions like that all the way up to, so you can read and see which one is which and what each function in this particular thing does. Okay, you even have some examples in other cases, like this one. This one works out the hypotenuse. If you've got the opposite and adjacent for a triangle, then you want to work out what the hypotenuse is. This is what this function does. Okay, so you have all these explanations of functions and what they do. So and sometimes you have good examples of how to use the functions. Then after the functions, sometimes you also have data. So in this case, these are variables with values. For example, this is the value for E. Then of interest to us is this one, pi. That this module, the math module, also contains a value for pi. So you don't have to remember the value for pi, exactly what it is, in your head. If you want pi, then you know that pi is in the math module. Then you just go and import the value for pi. Then you access pi. Are we clear?
Yes.
So these things are very, very important. You get access to a collection of functions. For example, here, if I say math.py, what do I get? This is what I get. So Python goes into the math module, because I'm told him, look into the math module. Then in the math module, give me the value for pi. So math.py, this is what I get. Okay. If I just say pi here, Python says, pi doesn't exist. Pi doesn't exist because you haven't, from the start, we haven't created a variable called pi, and you haven't given it a value. So Python is going to say it doesn't exist. You see that?
Yes.
Yes, but we can access pi through this module called math. All those digits there. Then we can use it in our calculations. Okay. If you want to access E, so you say math.e, you get E there. If you want to find the square root of 25, here, you say math.square root, then in this square root is a function. We give it the value 25, like the way we do with other functions. So the argument here is 25, then we get 5. If you just say square root 25, Python tells you, I don't know a function called square root. Because a function called square root is not one of the built-in functions for Python. But this square root function exists, is there in the math module. So you need to put the name of the module. So you're telling Python, look into this file called math. Then in this file called math, find the function called square root. And from here, you can see that the square root function is there. Is that clear? What we are doing?
Yes.
We know a certain file which has got these things. So we tell Python, look into this file, then access. You put a dot, then access this function or access this variable. Rachel? Rachel? Any comments? Okay, she's not saying anything. Okay, then we move on to a function called power. In the math module, if you look up here somewhere, there should be power. This one here. There's a function called power. POW. Okay, so we can say math.pow, then something like that. So we get, that is 5 to the power 3, 125. If we just say power, so in the math module there's a function called power, but Python also has a built-in function called power. That's why when you type POW, it turns green. The reason why it turns green is because this POW is like, it's one of those functions which come with Python. If you remember POW, that's a power function. So here in this case, you don't get an error because Python this time around, it accesses a different function. And you can see from the result, When Python accesses the built-in power function, what you get is 125. Okay, when Python accesses the power function which is in the math module, what you get is 125.0. The presentation of the result is different because what you are accessing are two different functions found in two different locations. Are we clear?
Yes.
If I do this, help math.power, you will see something. It says built-in function power in module math, right? If I just say the following instead, help, I say power, you see the following: built-in function power in module built-ins. Are you seeing that these two functions, math.power and power, are found in two different files? One is found in the math module, the other one is found in a file called built-ins.
Yes.
Yes, and that's why they give different results. Because as much as they work out the power, they are working out the power in different ways. Is this clear?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So the math power function, that one can be pre-programmed by the user. Wow.
No, it's already, it's not pre-programmed. It's already in a file called math.
Yes.
So you don't have to program, you just need to use it.
Okay.
Yes, you don't have to create anything. You just need to say, tell Python, I want you to open the math module. Then once the math module has been opened by you importing the math module, then inside this math module, you tell Python, I want to use the power function.
Okay.
Like this, math.power. Then you give this power function the things you want it to do. Are we clear?
Clear.
Rachel, I'm not hearing anything from her.
I think she's having some network problems.
She's having network challenges, huh? Okay, let's hope she's going to. Okay, the other thing you can do, apart from importing everything in a module, you can actually import a specific function, or you can import specific functions. You can import one function or one variable, or you can import more than one function from a module, depending on what you need to do. And how do you do that? You say, you use the following sequence of words. From, you start with from, then followed by the name of the file, which is the module in which these particular functions are found, then followed by import, then the name of the function. So you can import a single function, or you can actually import multiple functions from a module, depending on what you need to do. Are we clear?
Yes.
You can also say from module, a particular module. So in this case, our module is the math module. Then import a variable. For example, you want to import pi, or what is e. Once you do something like this, once you import a specific function, then how you use that specific function changes. You no longer have to say math.power. You can just use the name of the function. Okay, so let's see how that works. For example, remember here we tried to say pi here, and it refused, right?
Yes.
But this time around, if we tell Python we want to import the value, the variable pi, from the math module, it's going to work. So we say from math import pi. So it's just going to import math, So it's just going to import the pi value. Now when you say pi here, it now works. You see this?
Yes.
We can also, remember there is this function up here. In that list of things, there's a function called remainder. So from the name, you can have an idea of what this function does. It gives you the remainder of a division. Okay? So we want to use that function remainder. So we can say from math, because that function remainder is in the math file. From math, import remainder. Like that. Then once we import remainder, then we say remainder. What's a remainder of 10 divided by 3? We get 1.0. Is this clear? How you can import a single variable from a file, from a module, and how you can import one function from a module. So we have imported remainder. Here we have imported remainder, but you can do more than that. You can actually say from module import function 1, then you put a comma function 2, then you put a comma function 3. So you can import more than one function, or you can say from module import variable 1, variable 2, variable 3. You can import more. Okay? So let's see how this works. So here we are going to start with, we have already imported pi, so we're going to try import e and tau. Okay, so we're going to say these are variables. So we're going to say from math import e, then you put a comma tau, like that. Then we display e, we get a value. Then we display tau, we get a value. These variables, we did not create these variables. We are just accessing the values of these variables from a file. Are you seeing what you're doing?
Yes.
Yes, we are just accessing the values of these variables from a file. Okay. You can also import more than one function. For example, we're going to import factorial, this ceiling, floor, from the math module. So you can say from math import factorial, ceiling, and floor. 3 functions, factorial, ceiling, and floor. 3 of them. We can import them like that. Then now we can say factorial 5. Basically, what is 5 factorial? 5 factorial is 120. What is 3 factorial? Now we can start using factorial like this. What is 3 factorial? 3 factorial is 6. What then? The ceiling. This ceiling function, what it does is it kind of ceiling is towards the ceiling of your house. Okay, so basically when you give it a number, it's going to round off this number to the nearest integer. Okay, higher integer. So in this case, this 4.7 is going to be rounded off to 5, like that. Then this one, floor is going to round off your number to the bottom, to the nearest lowest integer. In this case, it's going to be just 4, like that. So the point is not really what the functions do, but the point is how you can import multiple functions, and once you import those multiple functions, how you can use them. Of course, if you want to find out what ceiling does, you can say, if you're not sure about what ceiling does, you can just say help. In this, since you have imported it, then you can just say help ceiling, like that. Then it gives you returns the ceiling of x as an integer. So you get an explanation of what it does. This one, help floor, but you get an explanation of what it does. Are we clear?
Clear.
The next thing is sometimes. Okay, sometimes the name of the module or the name of the function might be too cumbersome to type over and over and over again. Is that clear? The name of the module or the name of a function might be too cumbersome, especially in what you're looking at, this example you're looking at. If you have a function which is cumbersome to type, then you want to give that function a nickname which is more convenient. Okay, so how are you going to do that? You're going to say from module, which is in this case the math module, import a function, the name of a function, as the function you're importing, you're going to give it a new name which is called an alias. Hopefully this new name is going to be shorter and more convenient to work with. For example, we're going to import the radians function. Okay, so you say from math import radians. We know radians is a function as rad. So when you do this, when you import a function as something else, in this case rad, we are going to be referring to this radians as rad, which is a short version of radians. So we have just given a function a nickname. Are we clear?
Yes.
So when you do that, good. Now you can say rad 118, which is how much is 118 radians? That's what you get, which is pi. Also, this function degrees, you can say from math import degrees as degree that. So you can say degree 3 point, this is in the radians. So degrees accepts values in radians, then it's going to change those values into degrees, and this is what you get. You get 179.9, which is almost close to 180. Is that clear?
Yes.
So what we are trying to show here is if you do not like the name of a function the way it is, maybe the name is too cumbersome to type, once you import that function, you can give that function you're importing a more convenient name, but you can only do this for one function. So you can't do it for multiple functions. Okay, you can only do this for one function at a time, where you're giving nicknames to, you can't give one nickname to many functions. No, you can only give one unique nickname or one alias to one function. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing is you can also give a nickname to an entire module. Maybe the name of the module, you don't like it, so you decide I'll give this module a nickname. So you can also, apart from giving a nickname to a function, you can also give a nickname to a module. So you can say import module as alias. For example, in the case of math, maybe you're tired of you think typing math is too much, then you want to give this math module a nickname M. So you're going to say import math as M. So this M is going to become the nickname for math. Are we clear? Now,
yes.
If you want to access things using this M, you say m.pi, then you get pi, m.e, then you get e, m.square root, then it gives you access to the square root function. Is this clear?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we have seen how to import an entire module. We have also seen how to import functions, a single function, and how to import multiple functions from a module, and how to import variables and multiple variables from a module, and also how to import functions as aliases and also a module as aliases. Sometimes, which is not advisable, you just want to tell Python, say, look, Python, I want access to everything which is in this module. Okay? You just tell Python you want access to everything. So how are you going to do that? You're going to say from a particular module, import, then you're going to put a star. like that. When you do that, Python is going to give you access to everything. For example, for math, we say from math import star. So this statement is going to give you access to all the functions which are in the math module. So right now you can say, after you do that, now you can start saying radians 180, it works, degrees pi, it gives you that, sine 0.5 times pi, it gives you 1, cos pi, you get that, xp, you get that. However, this is not, then this is something called the Zen of Python, okay? However, this way of doing things, when you do this, radians, pi, sine, it doesn't give you a good idea of where this function is coming from. Sometimes you can forget that you actually, because you might do something like this for a particular module, then you do it again for something else. So basically you're getting things from all over the place. So when you start doing things, you don't know what came from where. Okay? Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, because this math module is not the only one which is there. There are other modules in Python, so it's not the only one. So if you're just getting things from all over the place, it becomes unclear where things are coming from, and that could cause problems. Okay, so basically we have come to the end. Unless you've got any questions on how do you get things, how do you get functions, how do you get variables which are stored in a module. Do you have any questions?
No, there are no questions.
Okay, so if there are no questions, that's very good. Hopefully, because this we're going to need for one of our labs, we're going to do, you will need access to a sine function, you need access, I think, to a cosine function. So those sine and cosine functions, you have to get them from somewhere, and where to get them is this math module business here. Okay, so unless there are questions, we are going to come to a stop here. Exactly, I think 1 hour or something.
All right, thank you so
Yes.
much.
So in the next couple of lessons, I will try to show you a bit of other modules, what they do. I think maybe 3 more modules. Then we're going to move on from there, because this business of modules deals with functions. Okay, so I'll try to show you some of a bit of modules, small ones, which I think you might find useful in our course. So I'll try to show those, then we're going to move on from there. So I think this business of modules, by the time we reach Friday, today is Tuesday, so the next 3 days, if you can look at a few more modules, then I'll be happy, so that at least we know we are covering our bases. Because where we are now, I think where we're supposed to end when it comes to this Python thing, we're getting closer to the end.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we have come to the end of this thing. See you tomorrow.
All right, have a good evening.
Cheers.